Thank you, good morning. It's my honor to be here in this tribunal. I've been working on fracking in the United States since about 2009, when the community started contacting my office from across the country about the damage that they were seeing. As you can see in the picture on the left, this is the legacy of fracking. This is the violation and the rape of Mother Earth that happens and follows fracking wherever fracking goes. As you can see, everywhere fracking goes, we take land that is beautiful and full of life and vibrant, with a dynamic sense of biodiversity. And we turn this landscape with the fracking technology into the wasteland of poisoned water, poisoned land, poisoned, sickened animals and human beings, where this is uninhabitable for any of the life on planet Earth. This is, there are hundreds, perhaps thousands of photos like this from around the world of what fracking looks like before and after. Before I explain what the process of fracking is, I just want to share a few more photos of the face of fracking. On the top photo on the left, you see a gas flare. Fracking is a new modern mining technology to recover natural gas and oil that is trapped far, far below the Earth's surface. And what you see on the top is a gas flare. In some places, it is actually the natural gas that they are searching for, but yet they can't capture it all, so it is flared off in a constant flow. Everywhere there is fracking, you can find these flares. Sometimes in places like in North Dakota, where it is prairie land, there are no major cities where fracking is happening. But yet you can see fracking from space because of the number of these gas flares that are poisoning the air and putting methane into the air. In places where they're fracking for oil, they don't care about the natural gas at all. And so they don't even bother to try and capture it. It's just left unattended. At the top right, what you see is an industrial fracking park. This is what it looks like when each one of those little dots represents a wellhead. Imagine what that might look like before it was dotted with thousands of these wellheads injecting toxic poison into the earth and taking water and poisoning it, and of course disrupting all of the life that was there before. On the bottom, on the left, you can see that is a river that looks like it's angry, it's red with fire. This is the result of, in many cases, fracking spills. These are common, or just overflow that falls into the river. There are many, many causes of this. This is a river full of toxins, and of course, on the bottom right, what you see is a waste pool of an open pit where they just contain all of the toxic chemicals in the water. Once they're finished with it, they leave it in these open air pits, which of course it's just a plastic liner, like you might put for a fish pond, and it's left there. And when the rains come, it washes the toxins and the poisons and all the radioactive materials that are brought up from shale, things that are never supposed to really be above ground, are brought to the surface and left there. And of course, the companies hope that it will just evaporate or somehow magically disappear. Of course, that doesn't happen. So, in terms of now that you've seen a little bit about what fracking looks like, a few pictures, I'd like to just briefly explain how fracking is done. The picture that you're looking at is, on the top, of course, is where we stand on the belly of Mother Earth. This is where the drilling begins. And as you can see, the line that goes down from the well rig, traditional oil rigs go down a few hundred feet, maybe 200 feet. But yet, when we're looking at hydrofracking, what's happening is it's a new technology that's been developed to allow the drilling to go horizontally down about 2 miles into hard shale, past the water, past the groundwater cycle, through the earth, all the way to hard shale that Mother Earth created 400 million years ago. Those sediments that were meant to stay 2 miles under the earth. And the idea is that there is trapped gas and natural gas and oil that they want to recover. So with millions of gallons of fresh water that will never be fresh again, and millions of gallons of toxic chemicals, about 600 to sometimes as many as 800 toxic chemicals that are poured down there with sand at high pressures to blow apart the shale across the bottom of that. Yeah, you can see at the very bottom, the fractures. That's why it's called hydrofracturing. It fractures and cracks open the shale and empties all of those millions of gallons of toxic chemicals and water down into that fracturing and tries to release the oil and gas and bring it back up. Of course, that groundwater that you see is protected by a cement casing. The cement casings that fail about 20% of the time from the very beginning. And cement casings, as we all know, cement cracks. So over time, all of these will fail. This protective barrier between our groundwater and the groundwater for all life on planet Earth that is vulnerable. There have been millions and millions and millions of groundwater poisonings around the world. Another technology that they use, in addition to fracturing it, is sometimes they use an acidation process that melts the shale. We have no idea why Mother Earth keeps this shale and the ingredients in the shale, but we know that it's supposed to be there. It's not supposed to be brought up on Earth. It has no business being here. And the water that is used is actually taken out of the hydrological cycle forever. 2/3 of the water that goes down there never comes up. 2/3 of the toxic chemicals that are poured down there are left down there. It's causing things like earthquakes in places where earthquakes don't exist and never existed before. I live in California where we're used to earthquakes a little bit, but in places like Ohio, many other places, the shaking of the earth is something very new, and it has been proven and caused by it's Mother Earth's violent reaction to what we're doing to her. Although fracking was created in the United States, and for that on behalf of the United States, I apologize for the creation of this technology. You can see at the top, this is where current fracking is taking place. This is no longer a problem just in the United States. It is a global problem. It's something that we export.
Perdón que interrumpa. Solo, no sé si antes de ver el fenómeno global.
Sorry.
I can translate for you the question.
Sorry.
Okay. Antes de ver el fenómeno global, no sé si podrías contarnos algún caso concreto en Estados Unidos, por ejemplo, contarnos de dónde se saca el agua, en qué comunidad está pasando esto, y después qué pasa con las comunidades y con la madre tierra en la superficie.
Yes.
¿Alguna comunidad en concreto?
Yes, I was just showing the scale, but I will return to the United States in just a moment, so I can skip forward.
Okay.
This is the United States. Every one of those pink areas is where there are what we call shale plays, the opportunity for shale, for extraction of oil and natural gas from the shale. As you can see, it is everywhere in the United States. I live in California, all the way on the left. There's also fracking in the ocean. There are giant rigs off the coast of California, all around the Gulf of Mexico, that are fracking for shale. This is the size and scope of the problem in only my country. If fracking were only in my country, this would still be a global problem, and I will show you why. So, as I said, the current production in the United States is about 300,000 barrels of natural gas per day. There are over 800,000 active wells in the United States alone, and many more are planned. The damages to the rights of ecosystems, to human health, the climate, the air, future generations and communities, way of life, food systems, prosperity, and democracy is already happening every day in every one of those communities located on the map I just showed you. I work with communities from across the country. I hear the stories of people from across the country who have lost their livelihoods, entire towns that have had to move away because their water has been destroyed. Even the president of Exxon, who lives near a fracking facility, joined a lawsuit to stop fracking in his neighborhood because it's dangerous, just not for anybody else. These trucks that you see, this is the infrastructure that is brought through every community where fracking exists. This particular picture is in a small town of about 200 people. This is what the traffic looks like on a constant level every single day. Where does fracking occur? As you can see, there are frack wells next to the school ground. The cows at the very bottom are drinking from a toxic waste pond. The farmers do not have any choice when a fracking well is put on their property because the mineral estate is owned by a corporation. So people have no choice. The person who lives in that home, or who used to live there, who no longer lives there, that is a fracking well on his front yard. His faucet in his kitchen lights on fire. This also happens in rivers and streams. The animals in places where this takes place, those cows will eventually, well, they will die. Many of them will receive neurological diseases where their tails fall off. Fish and entire streams and ecosystems are contaminated by this water everywhere. As you can see here.
Shannon, una pregunta.
Yes.
Hace un rato usted dijo que se inyecta el agua, se inyecta en el agua en el subsuelo y el agua se queda en el subsuelo. ¿Cómo se produce la contaminación del agua en la superficie si es que el agua se quedó en el subsuelo?
So, as you can see from this fracking well, the fracking well goes through the groundwater, which you can see, which is about 200 feet below, to the shale. So, well, 2/3 of that water remains underground with damages that we are only now beginning to see. The rest of the water is brought back up to the surface. Most of the water is ruined because of failures in the ability of the protection, the cement casing that protect the groundwater. That too, they crack 20% of the time from the very beginning, and over time, over 20 years, they will 100% will fail because cement cracks. That's what it does. For the water that is brought back up to the surface, it is left in open pits, which are then carried by the wind. It's also carried by the storms, which just overflows and puts it into creeks. Also, the disposal of the fracking wastewater is put into injection wells, which means they just find a hole and they dump all of this into a hole. It costs a lot of money to put the fracking fluid in injection wells. So if they can get away with it, often they just dump it. They just dump it into the nearby streams, into the nearby lakes. And in addition, there are thousands and thousands of what we call fraccidents, accidents from fracking, which means explosions that cause further contaminants. In one place in North Dakota, an accident of a well dumped thousands of gallons of water, 30 times the salt in the sea, which killed all of the fish, all of the life living there. There are any number of ways in which the water is ruined. From every point, from the beginning of this process through the end, there is a total disregard for the safety and the security and the life that is afforded to us by natural, pure, and clean water. The millions of gallons of water that is used for each and every fracking job can never be used again. It is toxic. So each well can be fracked about 16 times. So each time it takes a stadium, a football stadium full of water to frack one well. And you do that 16 times. And 2/3 of all of that water, 100% of that water is toxic now. It can never be used again. And for some of it that is taken out of the hydrological cycle and left underground to create damages, as I said, we only know, the rest of it remains in our water system somehow. It takes 400 of those tanker trucks I showed you to carry water and supplies to and from the well pads. In 2012, the U.S. produced 280 billion gallons of wastewater. Where does that water go? Nationally, fracking uses over 100 trillion gallons of water and 400 billion gallons of frac fluid, comprised of up to 600 toxic chemicals, including kerosene, benzene, toluene, xylene, and carcinogenic chemicals, formaldehyde. This is a photo of the fraccidents. This is from 2012. I could not find a more recent one, but I know personally of at least 10 more that should be located on this map. And each one of these places, those accidents involve the spilling of these toxic chemicals straight into the rivers, explosions at various frac sites, contamination of groundwater, the contamination of rivers and streams, the contamination of farms, the contamination of prairies and mountains. Fracking occurs everywhere on Indian reservations. It occurs on federal lands, on forests, in your neighborhood, behind your child's school. Anywhere there is oil in the shale, the corporations will come and find it, because we are at the place in our history of oil extraction where we are willing to work harder and harder to get to the oil that is there. As you can see, again, as I said, it's dumped in these open air ponds, like in front of this house. There's no protection there. Very often, they don't even have signs that say danger, restricted area. And certainly the cows, the animals, the birds, they don't read those signs. All of these cause cancers. I have met so many people who have lost their lives, lost their livelihoods, have resulted in new forms of cancers. Just in the last several years, fracking is so new. This is really only from 2005. This is the damage that we've done in under 10 years in just the United States. The water that you see on the top picture, the orange water, that is full of toxins. That is from one of the waste ponds in Colorado, where we had a storm related to climate change. And it rained and rained for days and washed all of these toxic ponds away, all of them. Those open air ponds also include those open air ponds. The idea is that it will just evaporate into the air. But of course, that poisons the air and leaves these vital VOCs, which cause cancer, asthma, and severe illnesses. I have been called to many communities where and spoken with many health professionals who have talked about the rise in the neighborhoods where fracking occurs of asthma-related deaths, cancer, and other illnesses. In one case in Utah, wells were estimated to be leaking 60 tons of methane per hour. Fracking is the #2 source of greenhouse gases in the United States, producing from 2005 to 2012, 100 million metric tons of methane. Methane, of course, is, in terms of greenhouse gases, 25% worse than just CO2 alone. So when they talk about natural gas as this clean energy alternative, one, they never talk about the communities and the places where it comes from and the life that is lost. But in addition, they do not talk about all of the climate change damage that is being caused. In terms of the violation of water, as you can see at the top, this is a famous image in the United States and very common. I know people who shower in the dark because they're worried that a spark from their light bulb might light them on fire in their shower because the water is so full of methane that you can light it on fire. The next picture, of course, that's water adjacent to a fracking well. All of those fish were also an endangered species. This is common for fracking to do this kind of damage to rivers and streams. And what you see is a man lighting fire to the creek by his where he lives. This happens all the time. The caption on this photo is, "I was able to light the creek on fire again." He tests the water every day. Mother Earth is telling us in so many ways that fracking is dangerous. As I said, it's been proven to cause earthquakes. For those of you not familiar with the state of Ohio, they've never had an earthquake before. And in places where we're going to actually hear from testimony of some of the victims of people who are now regularly occurring earthquakes, which have been proven to be caused by fracking. And it's no wonder. So looking specifically at the Bakken in Fort Berthold, North Dakota. North Dakota is a place in the United States that is it is probably the home of some of the biggest oil boom. North Dakota is, this is prairie land, this is land of the buffalo. This is quiet land. This is not a place with big cities. And yet, you can see North Dakota now from space because of the gas flares that light it up like a major city. And here, in a place, North Dakota is famous for wind. And in fact, it has been said that North Dakota can power the wind for most of the United States. But yet, the resources for wind development have been forgotten as they've turned to fracking. It has created these fracking boom towns of soaring crime rates because this infrastructure of hundreds of thousands of all of this oil has created a new infrastructure for the town. And we're going to hear words from a resident there from the tribe in North Dakota, in Fort Bertha. It has gone from a quiet agricultural state to producing over 660,000 barrels a day. This is what North Dakota is supposed to look like on the right. It is a quiet place where many indigenous peoples have been holding sacred the land. They hunt they hunt antelope and deer here, which no longer live there. So they've lost their livelihoods as well, and the water is poisoned, and in its place have become these what they call man camps of thousands of people from around the world who come to work on the oil rigs there. And it's very reminiscent of the gold rush, and in its wake leaves crime, rape, poverty, and prices so high that nobody can afford a loaf of bread unless you work for the oil company. But most of those jobs don't go there. And I just wanted to quote from a resident there: "I expect to live here all my life and have a commitment to this land that was my folks. Land I have an obligation to protect it. Not just for me, but for the families that come after me. They can no longer do that because the land has been so ruined." We're going to listen to the testimony of a couple of victims. So I just wanted to wrap up by saying, as you can see, this is a global issue, and around the world there are people rising against fracking. It is a clear violation of the rights of Mother Earth. We violate nature's laws at our own peril. We do not have the moral authority to rape Mother Earth in this way. It is absolutely impossible to frack safely. It is not a technology that should ever have been invented. We must transform our human laws and align them with nature's own laws if we are to truly protect Mother Earth. As Ecuador and Bolivia have sought to do. And 22 communities in 7 states in the United States, including the communities that I work with, like Mendocino County, have banned fracking by recognizing the rights for communities and ecosystems. And we hope that this is a solution for other communities around the world. Rights of nature is a vital piece of the transformation of beginning to live with Mother Earth and within the natural laws. Fracking has no place. It is a total and utter destructive violation, one of the most extreme forms of extraction that I've seen in my lifetime. And I'm very happy to believe that we can, in fact, stop fracking.
O sea, lo que una es impedir que muestres el slide donde está el fracking alrededor del mundo. If we can see the slide, what's going on around the world with fracking.
Okay, so at the top we can see, again, these are the countries where fracking is currently in existence. Many of those countries, as I said, this technology was created in the United States, so we have many more examples of the destruction. But in places like Argentina, and where fracking is also being taken up, in all of these places, we hear the same things from the communities there that we hear from communities in the United States. And if we don't stop fracking, as devastating as it is, if we never added another fracking well, we've already damaged Mother Earth. But yet, if we look at the bottom picture, these are the shale gas reserves, which show that the United States, while it may have been first, does not even have the most shale reserves. That would belong to China. And as you can see, all of these other countries and the gas reserves, these are only gas, not oil. Fracking is for shale, oil and gas. This is what our future could look like in basically every country in the world. And even if fracking doesn't come to your country, we all live downstream of fracking.
Una pregunta más, quisiera, creo que estos 2 días hemos escuchado cómo las actividades extractivistas se producen en las selvas amazónicas y quisiera que nos expliques un poco algo que nosotros en los países periféricos estamos acostumbrados, que el primer mundo venga a destrozarnos. ¿Cómo se explica esto que el primer mundo se esté destrozando a sí mismo?
Yes, my work has, for many years, taken me around the world, and my role has been to, as a member of the United States, to try and act in solidarity, to try and get our elected officials to stop the destruction that we've brought on other countries. It is our shameful history of how we have acted with our foreign policy and allowed our own corporations to act around the world. However, as oil is getting harder and harder to come by, it is clear that no longer do we reserve our citizens of the United States as safe and secure from what we have bestowed on other peoples and other ecosystems of the world. I believe that this has created an opportunity a strange opportunity for people in the United States to finally understand the implications of a global economic system that seeks only profit at the expense of people and ecosystems, and creates an opportunity to stand in solidarity for the first time with people in the United States and people elsewhere, and to join hands. So I think it's hard for us as people in the United States to say and to look at people who have faced this destruction around the world for so long and often at the hands of U.S. policies, to say, look what's happening to us. But it is time for us all to stand together now, and for the first time, Americans are waking up. Many Americans are waking up to what all of this has meant and the lives that we have lived so richly at the expense of so many in other countries. It is an opportunity for us finally to hold hands and to say, we are all in this together.
Gracias, Shannon.